Yo, listen, let me ask you something. What happens in a family when nobody softens the impact? Think about that. What happens when every harsh word lands at full force? Every argument escalates unchecked. Every frustration spreads without resistance. Because I am telling you right now, one of the most overlooked roles in All in the Family belongs to Gloria. Not because she wins the biggest arguments, not because she controls the household, not because she has the strongest voice, but because she often functions as something every family desperately needs: an emotional buffer. The person standing between conflict and catastrophe. The person absorbing impact before it reaches everyone else. The person quietly reducing damage while everyone else focuses on the battle itself. And honestly, the more you study Gloria's character, the more essential that role becomes. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are diving deep into Gloria as emotional buffer and why this responsibility reveals one of the most important and underappreciated dimensions of her entire character. Now here is the thing. Most people notice conflict. Conflict is loud. Conflict attracts attention. Conflict dominates the room. What people often miss is the person managing the effects of conflict. The person reducing emotional fallout. The person preventing every disagreement from becoming a disaster. That role is usually invisible until it disappears. And throughout much of All in the Family, Gloria quietly performs that role. Again and again. Now check this out. Think about the emotional environment of the Bunker household. Archie generates tension. Mike challenges tension. Softens tension. Gloria absorbs tension. That distinction matters, because absorbing tension requires a completely different skill set. It requires awareness, patience, flexibility, emotional endurance, and perhaps most importantly, it requires the willingness to carry burdens other people barely notice. Now here comes hot take number 1. Gloria often protects people from each other without either side realizing it. Think about that. When Archie says something hurtful, Gloria frequently translates. When Mike becomes frustrated, Gloria frequently contextualizes. When misunderstandings grow, Gloria frequently steps in before they become permanent damage. Many of her most important contributions happen quietly, which is exactly why they are so easy to overlook. Now let us talk about emotional buffering. Because emotional buffering is not the same thing as conflict resolution. That is an important distinction. Conflict resolution tries to eliminate the problem. Emotional buffering reduces the impact of the problem. Gloria cannot always stop arguments. She cannot always create agreement. She cannot always change people. But she can often reduce harm. And honestly, that is incredibly valuable. Now check this out. One of the things Norman Lear ever did was show how emotionally expensive this role can become. A lesser sitcom would portray buffering as effortless. Gloria smiles. Everything works out. Problem solved. Real life does not work that way. Protecting people from emotional fallout requires energy. It requires attention. It requires sacrifice. And Gloria pays those costs repeatedly. Now here comes hot take number 2. The emotional buffer often carries stress that belongs to other people. Seriously, think about it. Archie gets angry. Mike gets frustrated. The conflict originates between them. Yet Gloria often feels the emotional consequences. She carries worries, carries tension, carries anxiety. The original emotions may not belong to her. The burden often does. That reality makes her role far more demanding than people realize. Now think about her relationship with Archie. Because Gloria understands something many people miss. She knows Archie's anger is not always the whole story. She sees fear underneath certainty, insecurity underneath stubbornness, vulnerability underneath defensiveness. That understanding allows her to soften situations before they become worse. Not because she excuses Archie, because she understands him. And understanding often becomes part of emotional buffering. Now here comes hot take number 3. Gloria's emotional intelligence is one of the family's most valuable resources. Let that sink in. Because emotional intelligence rarely receives the same recognition as confidence or authority. Yet emotional intelligence often prevents far more problems than authority ever solves. Gloria notices emotional shifts, notices tension building, notices relationships straining. That awareness allows her to respond before situations completely unravel. And that skill becomes essential to the family's survival. Now check this out. One reason Sally's performance remains so effective is because she portrays emotional buffering realistically. Watch Gloria during arguments. She is rarely passive. Even when she is quiet, she is processing, monitoring reactions, evaluating emotions, trying to prevent escalation. You can almost see the emotional calculations happening in real time. That subtlety gives the character tremendous depth. Now let us talk about Mike. Because buffering Mike creates different challenges than buffering Archie. Mike's frustration often comes from ideals. His disappointment often comes from unmet expectations. Gloria understands those emotions too. She understands why he cares, why he pushes, why he struggles. That understanding allows her to help translate his intentions to others. Again, not always successfully, but consistently. Now here comes hot take number 4. Gloria often becomes the emotional space where everyone else's feelings land. Think about that. People express themselves. People vent. People argue. People react. And somehow Gloria ends up processing pieces of all of it. That is a tremendous responsibility, especially because nobody officially assigns it to her. She simply becomes the person capable of carrying it, which makes the role both admirable and exhausting. Now check this out. One reason Gloria remains relevant today is because emotional buffers exist in almost every family. The daughter who keeps everyone talking, the spouse who reduces tension, the sibling who prevents conflicts from growing, the family member who quietly absorbs emotional shockwaves. Millions of people recognize themselves in Gloria because they have played similar roles. That gives her character lasting power. Now here comes hot take number 5. The true tragedy of being an emotional buffer is that success often goes unnoticed. Seriously. When buffers succeed, people focus on what did not happen. The explosion that never occurred. The relationship that never broke. The argument that never escalated. Those outcomes are invisible, which means the work becomes invisible too. Gloria experiences that reality constantly. She helps preserve emotional stability. Yet much of her contribution remains unrecognized. And honestly, that makes her role even more meaningful. Now think about the larger lesson hidden inside her story. The lesson is not that emotional buffers solve every problem. They do not. The lesson is not that emotional buffering eliminates conflict. It does not. The lesson is that relationships often survive because somebody reduces the emotional damage conflict creates. Somebody absorbs impact. Somebody protects connection. Somebody creates space for people to remain connected even when emotions become difficult. Gloria becomes that person repeatedly, and the family is stronger because of it. Now let that sink in. Because this is where Gloria becomes much more than a sitcom character. She becomes a portrait of emotional stewardship, a portrait of invisible support, a portrait of somebody quietly protecting relationships from the full force of conflict. Again and again, she faces the same challenge. How do you protect people from emotional harm without losing yourself in the process? How do you absorb tension without becoming consumed by it? How do you remain compassionate when everyone else is overwhelmed? Watching Gloria navigate those questions becomes one of the most powerful parts of her entire journey. So when we talk about Gloria as emotional buffer, we are talking about much more than a personality trait. We are talking about one of the most essential functions she serves within the Bunker family. A woman absorbing emotional shockwaves. A woman reducing relational damage. A woman quietly helping people stay connected when conflict threatens to pull them apart. That responsibility made her important. That responsibility made her resilient. That responsibility made her indispensable. Most importantly, that responsibility made her unforgettable. So what do you think? Was Gloria's role as an emotional buffer the hidden force that kept the family functioning? Or did the emotional weight she absorbed ultimately cost her more than anyone realized? Let me know in the comments because I would genuinely love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of television's most fascinating characters, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with fellow fans of All in the Family. We have plenty more character studies, emotional analyses, and classic television deep dives coming soon. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most important person in a conflict is not the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it is the person quietly absorbing the impact so everyone else can keep moving forward. And few television characters demonstrated that truth more honestly than Gloria.